Penelope didn't like me, her fiancé from the country. To get me to break off the engagement, she found a poor student at our school to pretend to be her. One's new money, the other's too poor to eat. A perfect match. I bet he won't last 3 days. The new money kid will definitely call off the engagement. The poor student was slender and tall, with a cool, reserved demeanor. She seemed fragile and was a girl of few words. I took it as the truth, believing the Ashworth family had really gone bankrupt and that she couldn't even afford a meal. My mom's words echoed in my ear. Sweetheart, if they're bankrupt, they're bankrupt. We don't look down on people for being poor. We have enough money to take care of her. So, when she was hungry, I gave her food. When she worked her part-time job, I acted as her bodyguard. When her dad was hospitalized, I paid with my card. I took very good care of my supposedly destitute fiancé, until the day a beautiful girl snatched the breakfast I had carefully prepared for her. I was about to lose my temper when she looked at me, her expression full of indignation. Ethan, look closely. I'm your real fiancé. My mom told me I had a fiancé in the city. To give me the choice of whether to go through with it, and to make sure I got into a good college, she arranged for my transfer. So, for my junior year of high school, she had me transferred directly into Penelope's class. I'd heard the Ashworths were the wealthiest family in Boston, with a long and storied history, so my mom made sure I brought a lot of nice gifts. But when I got off the train, there was no one from the Ashworth family there to meet me. I was a little annoyed at first, but that changed when I got to school. The moment I saw the slender girl I thought was Penelope, wearing a faded, washed-out t-shirt, all my frustration vanished. It was a student I ran into on the way who saw the photo in my hand and kindly offered to lead me. Junior class, room 3? You're looking for Penelope? I know her. I'll take you. She was the one who raised her hand and pointed her out to me. I followed her finger and saw a girl sitting by the window, her back perfectly straight, looking slender and neat. The afternoon sun, filtered as if through a sieve, cast a slanted light on her profile, and a gentle breeze lifted a few strands of her hair, revealing a smooth forehead and a strong brow line. I glanced down at the photo in my hand, then back up at her. The student's dramatic, sorrowful voice echoed in my head. You didn't know? The Ashworth family went bankrupt 2 years ago. Now Penelope has to be on financial aid, works part-time jobs after school, and sometimes she's so broke she can't even afford to eat. Our families rarely kept in touch, and something like bankruptcy wasn't exactly news the Ashworths would broadcast to my family back in the country. I let out a soft, "Oh," nodding quickly and promising her I wouldn't tell anyone. This is our new transfer student, Ethan Miller. Let's all welcome him, the teacher said, pointing to an empty seat in the back. You can sit there for now. I looked up and saw it was right next to the girl I thought was Penelope. From the moment I walked into the classroom until I was assigned my seat, she never once looked up. She was completely focused, head down, writing something on a piece of paper. I had to walk behind her to get to my seat, and as I passed, my backpack snagged on something. I gave a little tug, and an old enamel mug tumbled out from inside her desk. The mug clattered as it rolled across the floor, and its only contents, half a stale bread roll, fell out and was instantly coated in dust. I clearly saw her shoulders give an almost imperceptible flinch. She gripped her pen tighter, but didn't turn around. I heard a few muffled snickers from nearby and saw a couple of girls whispering while looking at her back, their eyes filled with disdain. So this was how miserable her life was. The vibrant, confident girl from the photo couldn't even afford a decent meal now. I bit my lip, sat down with my backpack, and whispered an apology. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. She still didn't look at me, just kept her head down as she took the mug I'd placed on her desk and shoved it back inside. I'm Ethan, I said, tilting my head and leaning closer. Do you remember me? We had actually met once, when she was 6. Like my dad, I've always had a thing for pretty faces, and back then, little Penelope was so delicate and beautiful I couldn't stand to be away from her. Of course, I also dared her to play with the chickens, and she got pecked on the butt, after which she refused to speak to me ever again. Luckily, she hadn't changed a bit. She was just as beautiful as I remembered. My sudden movement startled her. She leaned back slightly, her eyes cast downward as she looked at me. Her eyes were beautiful, like shining dark gems, and her long, dark lashes softened her otherwise cool gaze when she looked down, making her seem a little less distant. After the initial shock, she remained silent. I scratched my head. I'm your fiancé, remember? She was taking a sip of water and choked when she heard me, letting out a muffled cough. I quickly patted her on the back. When she recovered, she gave me an unreadable look, a faint blush spreading across her pale cheeks. Maybe she didn't remember me, or maybe the bankruptcy had changed her. In any case, I got the message. We'd just pretend we were strangers and start over as friends. So I smiled and held out my hand. Well, we're desk partners now. I'm Ethan. It's nice to meet you. By the way, could you help me with something? I expected her to ignore me again, but this time she spoke, though her voice was still icy. I don't have time. Meanwhile, the student who had so kindly shown me the way. As soon as she saw me enter the classroom, she ducked into the stairwell where a few other wealthy-looking girls were waiting for her. Olivia said excitedly to the beautiful girl at the center of the group, "Penelope, it's done. That guy isn't smart at all. He believed every word I said." I pointed out Khloe Davis and told him the Ashworths went bankrupt and you couldn't even afford to eat. His jaw dropped. He even saw Khloe's stale roll. Who's that pathetic these days? Does he actually think he's here to rescue a damsel in distress? I'm telling you, in less than 3 days, he'll be begging his mom to call off the engagement. A flicker of impatience crossed Penelope's eyes, but she still asked for confirmation. "You're sure 3 days will do it?" He actually bought it. I saw the picture he had. It's just a profile shot of you, and honestly, it looks enough like Khloe Davis that no one would question it. I even told him that after the Ashworths went bankrupt, you changed your name to dodge creditors. He'll totally believe it. And if you do run into him, just say it's a coincidence, so he doesn't get any ideas. Penelope stuck her hands in her pockets, her perfect features relaxing slightly. Some new money kid from the country. Who even does arranged marriages anymore? Exactly. The Ashworths are an old money family with a century of history. Any marriage should be to someone of equal standing, like your older sister marrying the heir to Sterling Corporation. Why should you be stuck with some hick from the sticks? Tell me about it. My dad's been throwing a fit at home for days, threatening a hunger strike to get my mom to call it off. But my mom does whatever the matriarch says, and Grandma Ashworth is all about honor and loyalty, insisting on keeping a promise she made to an old army buddy. "Oh, but you know, I think your fiancé." Penelope shot her a cold glare, and Olivia quickly corrected herself. "That country boy is actually pretty handsome. I snapped a picture, want to see? You might even like him." Penelope scoffed. "Are you insane? You know my standards. Why would I be interested in some guy from the country?" Olivia scratched her head, muttering, "He's seriously good-looking, way better than that Prince Charming you've known since kindergarten." I was oblivious to all of this. At that moment, my world had narrowed down to Khloe. Yes, she said her name was Khloe, and the other students called her Khloe too. So the Ashworths really had changed her name to hide from creditors. I spent the entire day trying to talk to Khloe, but she barely responded, sometimes pretending she hadn't heard me at all. But I'm a natural chatterbox, a trait I inherited from my mom, who could talk to a brick wall all day. Combined with my easygoing nature, I could basically hold a one-sided conversation with no problem. "Hey, do you know any good places to eat in Boston? It's my first day, and I don't know my way around. So, do you live on campus or commute? Huh, why is this concept different from how they taught it back home? Where's the water fountain? I'm dying of thirst." Sometimes, when Khloe really couldn't take it anymore, she would whisper, "You need to pay attention in class." After a pause, she added, "The water fountain is outside room 4, and you can't go until after class." By the time class was over, I had completely forgotten about the water. I quickly called my mom to tell her about the Ashworth family's bankruptcy. My mom was shocked. "What happened?" "Well, it's all right, sweetheart. If they're bankrupt, they're bankrupt. We don't turn our backs on people in tough times. That's when you see a person's true character. If you really like the girl, we'll just take care of her." I nodded. It wasn't that I was in love with her or anything. It was just that Khloe's situation was so pitiful. I didn't have much of anything else, but I had plenty of money, and that's exactly what she needed most. My family got rich starting the year I was born. Back in '98, the moment the first whispers of real estate deregulation appeared in the papers, my mom bought up an old, abandoned industrial park in our county. In 2005, when I started middle school, the city began developing a new commercial district, and she invested everything she had into it. Then came the dot-com boom. She didn't understand the technology, but she understood how to fund the people who did. Our family's wealth was recent. Compared to a family like the Ashworths, with their generations of accumulated fortune, I was the definition of new money. But being new money has its perks. At least my mom could hand me credit card after credit card without even blinking. I could have bought the karaoke bar where Khloe worked part-time, but I didn't. It took me a few days of pestering Khloe, but I finally found out which karaoke bar she worked at. At her night job, Khloe was different. She dressed more casually, and her hair was a little untidy. I had followed her there in secret, so when Khloe saw me, her brow furrowed deeply. "What are you doing in a place like this?" she asked, pulling me into the stairwell. "Who told you to come to a karaoke bar?" At least she was talking more now. I pulled a sandwich out of my backpack and pushed it into her hands. Khloe froze for a second, her hand hovering in the air. Eat it, I urged, pushing it closer. I just bought too much, and the guy at the deli said it would go bad by tomorrow. I can't finish it, and it's a waste to throw it out. So you'd be doing me a favor. I'd done some asking around, and found out Khloe worked at least 3 jobs after school every day. First, she'd hand out flyers, then run a small noodle cart, and only after closing up there would she come to the karaoke bar to work another shift. A plate of noodles sold for a few dollars, but she never ate one herself. She'd either make do with the stale roll from the morning or wait for leftover snacks from the customers' tables. Over the past few days, I'd gotten to know most of the kids in our class. A surprising number of them went out of their way to warn me not to get too close to Khloe. They said she was weird and gloomy, that she never talked to anyone and just kept her head buried in her homework. They said her dad had kidney failure and that she also had a disabled younger brother at home. That's strange, I thought. Mr. Ashworth has such a serious illness? But I couldn't bring myself to ask Khloe about it, afraid I'd just upset her. Why? Khloe asked, clutching the sandwich and looking down at me. I waved my hand dismissively, widening my eyes. What do you mean, why? You're my desk partner. Besides, you helped me with that math problem today. I nodded emphatically. That's right. My mom swore she'd break my legs if I don't get into a good college. So, Khloe, this is a bribe, you see? That sandwich isn't free. You have to help me with my homework again tomorrow. I happened to see her test score today. My God, the girl scored a 149 on her math exam. She pressed her lips together. You don't think I'm dirty? My eyes went wide. Of course not. I leaned in and made a show of sniffing the air around her. Are you kidding? Your clothes always smell so clean, like fresh laundry soap. I sit next to you all day. The breeze brings it right over. Now look at my shirt. I held up my own grubby sleeve. This is way dirtier than anything you're wearing. Do you think I'm dirty? In the dim light of the stairwell, Khloe suddenly looked up at me, her eyes shining like stars. Clutching the sandwich, she shook her head. I lifted my chin smugly. That's more like it. After all, I'm your fiancé. I caught myself just in time, cutting the word short. Khloe got off work 10 minutes early and insisted on walking me home, stuffing a set of her meticulously written notes into my backpack before we left. My mom had bought me a house in the exclusive Clearwater Estates neighborhood long before I arrived. Ever since my dad passed away, she's been incredibly protective. She was even planning to quit her job to move here with me, but I gently refused. In the end, she compromised by hiring a chaperone to look after me. As we neared the entrance to my gated community, I quickly steered Khloe down a different street, one with more modest houses. With her family bankrupt, seeing a neighborhood full of mansions would just be a painful reminder. This is my place, I said, pointing to a random house. You should get going, it's getting late. Khloe looked up at the house, then surprised me by reaching out and gently patting the top of my head. See you tomorrow, desk partner. If any of our classmates had been there, they would have been shocked. It was as if a flat, paper cutout of Khloe had suddenly been brought to life. The lifeless, somber air around her had lifted, replaced by what looked like a flicker of anticipation for a future that usually seemed so bleak. As soon as Khloe was gone, I sprinted back toward Clearwater Estates. I was running fast, and as I rounded the corner to my house, I nearly crashed right into someone. But the other person had quick reflexes, shooting out a hand to steady me just in time. I looked up into the face of an incredibly beautiful and refined-looking girl. I frowned, confused. She looked so familiar. That was it. She looked a little like Khloe. But why was she just staring at me like that? I waved a hand in front of her face. Hey, I'm okay. You can let go now. She blinked, then quickly dropped her hand. Sorry, I didn't think anything of it, just nodded and started to walk away. But the girl behind me suddenly called out, Do you go to Northwood High? But just as she spoke, my dog came bounding out to greet me. I happily ran to my dog, completely forgetting about the girl. Penelope stood there, stunned, watching the boy happily scoop up his dog and disappear around the corner. By the time she snapped out of it and ran after him, he was long gone. She opened her group chat on iMessage. Is there a guy at our school with short hair, tall, really bright eyes, and a strong nose? Anyone seen him? Someone replied. What's this? Did you meet a new hottie somewhere? Love at first sight. No way. Penelope's standards are way too high. She doesn't even give the most popular guys a second look. It can't be love at first sight. Penelope propped her feet up on the coffee table, staring at the words love at first sight for a long moment. Just cut the crap and tell me if you've seen him or not. Well, I've seen guys with short hair, guys with bright eyes, and tall guys, but I can't picture anyone who's all three. Don't worry, we'll do a full sweep for you tomorrow. If he goes to Northwood, we'll find him. Penelope replied lazily, Find him, and there's a big reward in it for you. Coming from a wealthy family and being beautiful herself, Penelope had a natural confidence. She believed she could get anyone she wanted. After class that day, Khloe bent down and took the broom from my hands. You can just sit. The setting sun painted the classroom windows a honey gold color as Khloe expertly swept the floor, her hands familiar with the worn smooth handle of the broom. Do you do this often? I asked, sitting on the edge of her desk and swinging my legs. She nodded, explaining, some kids pay me to do their cleaning duty. It's $10 a time. After she said it, she glanced at me nervously. That's not what I meant. I hopped off the desk, grabbed the mop, and said indignantly, that's a total ripoff. $10 to clean this whole classroom? That's worse than my mom. The chirping of crickets outside suddenly seemed louder. Khloe kept her eyes on the floor, suddenly feeling that the tedious chore wasn't so bad after all. When the cleaning was done, Khloe started packing up to head to her noodle cart. She turned to me and said, I wrote down the steps for today's problems on the back of your worksheet. You can review them tonight. If you still don't get it, I can explain it again tomorrow. I wasn't really listening to that. Instead, I looked up at her and asked, can I come with you to your noodle cart? Khloe hesitated, then said gently, most students use their evenings to study. It's easy to fall behind otherwise. In the end, she still didn't agree to let me come along. She genuinely seemed worried that my mom would break my legs. When I finally found her noodle cart on my own, I saw her hunched over the wok, wearing an apron and stir-frying noodles for a customer. Khloe saw me, and her spatula paused mid-air for a second. What are you doing here? A friend from school? A gentle voice asked from nearby. Are you Khloe's classmate? I followed the voice and saw Khloe's father. He was gaunt, clearly worn down by illness, but I could still see the handsome features underneath. Hello, sir. I'm Khloe's desk partner, I said with a smile. He seemed delighted, the graying hair at his temples catching the warm yellow light. Young man, would you like some noodles? Our Khloe doesn't usually have friends visit. Let me make you a plate. You have to try them. Khloe gently pushed him back into his chair and glanced at me. You just sit, Dad. I'll make it. I grinned at her, my eyes silently urging her on. Hurry up, I'm starving. Khloe didn't say a word, just turned and started pulling ingredients from a styrofoam cooler. First, she cracked 2 eggs into the hot oil, the sizzling sound releasing a delicious aroma. Then she added a generous scoop of shredded pork, sliced sausage, shrimp, and a secret sauce. As she stir-fried it all over high heat, the smell was incredible. Once the bok choy and bean sprouts were just cooked, she tossed in a bundle of noodles and continued to fry. Her wrist was a blur as she tossed the noodles in the wok, coating them in a dark, savory sauce. A sprinkle of green onions, and she served up a bowl that looked as amazing as it smelled. I glanced at the menu and realized she'd made me the deluxe version, the most expensive one on the board. I sat at the small plastic table as Khloe brought over the bowl of noodles, and I rubbed my disposable chopsticks together in anticipation. Khloe crouched down beside me, her eyes a little nervous. Go on, try it. I had to admit, she was an amazing cook. The smell alone was making me drool. I took a huge bite and immediately shot her a thumbs up. A few moments later, I was clutching the empty bowl, my eyes welling up as I looked at Khloe. Khloe, why do your noodles taste like my dad's cooking? I miss my dad. Seeing my teary eyes, Khloe became flustered and started stammering. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. I just stared at her for a moment. She was so sweet, unbelievably so. Her bangs fell softly over her pretty eyes. She had a brain that could solve the most complex equations. Yet in this moment, she was so flustered, all she could say was sorry. I remembered the Penelope from my childhood as a beautiful but proud swan. It was clear these past few years must have been incredibly difficult for her. I tilted my head and looked at her. You're going to be successful one day. Huh? Khloe blinked. What do you mean? I didn't say anything else. I had never met anyone like Khloe before. She was standing knee-deep in mud, yet she somehow remained completely untouched by it. She was brilliant, too. Even though she only had time to study during class, she was consistently ranked first in our year. So, this temporary hardship didn't mean a thing. I was sure of it. Khloe would succeed at whatever she chose to do. I didn't see Khloe over the weekend. I was itching for some action, so I found a local racing club, something I hadn't done since I moved to Boston. But as soon as I got there, they turned me away at the door. Sorry, kid. We're closed for a private event today. No guests. I pointed to the sign out front. Your sign says you're open today. Ah, that's a mistake. One of our staff must have forgotten to change it. I was deflated. I'd finally found a decent track, too. I've loved speed my whole life, starting with bikes and eventually moving to cars. After I got into racing, my mom even sent me to a professional driving school in Europe for a few months. I couldn't stand being away for too long, so she eventually brought me back home. When I was 15, she slyly handed me a manila envelope. Inside was the deed to a huge plot of land in the hills just east of town. It was wide open with natural inclines, the perfect terrain for the custom track I'd been dreaming about for months. Just as I was about to leave, someone breezed past me. A familiar, beautiful face stopped right in front of me, her voice full of surprise. "It's you?" I stared at her for a moment before I recognized her as the girl from the other night. "You race?" she asked, her eyes lighting up as if she'd discovered a fascinating secret. I nodded confidently. "I do. Too bad the track's closed today." She gave a little wave, and the manager who had just been arguing with me nodded and walked away. She looked back at me. "How about a race? I haven't seen many guys who are into this. Consider it a friendly wager. Win or lose, you'll be welcome here anytime." I shrugged. It was a challenge I was more than happy to accept. The moment the light turned green, both our cars shot off the starting line. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw her car take the first turn with incredible precision. Instead of the standard outside-inside-outside line, she hugged the apex tightly, the smoke from her tires bursting in front of my car. It was obvious she'd had professional training, and a lot of it. I smiled and wrenched the wheel. She was good, but unfortunately for her, I was better. When I crossed the finish line, her car was nowhere in sight. Just as I got to the lounge area, my phone rang. "Hey kid, it's about that Khloe girl. Some thugs are smashing up her noodle cart. I'm watching it now. Are you coming?" I couldn't be with Khloe 24/7, of course, so I'd hired someone to keep an eye on things. I hung up, changed my clothes, and bolted out the door without a word. By the time Penelope got to the lounge, I was long gone. "Where'd he go?" she demanded of the manager who hurried after her. "He left. Said something came up. Didn't even wait a second." The manager, trying to flatter her, said, "Miss Ashworth, I've never seen you go so easy on an opponent. You're really willing to swallow your pride to get a guy's attention." Penelope tossed her helmet aside, ignoring him. "Go easy on him," she swore under her breath. She had lost, fair and square, even though she was trying her best. But she wasn't angry. A small smile played on her lips. She realized she was genuinely intrigued by that guy. Penelope opened her group chat, dropped in a photo, and started typing furiously. "See this? It's fate. I ran into him again today. He's cute, right? Even cuter when he's behind the wheel. I'll have to introduce you guys sometime." The chat exploded with replies, some complimenting the photo, others teasing Penelope for finally being smitten. Only Olivia was quiet for a long time, before finally posting a picture of her own. "Oh, this is bad, Penelope. You have the worst luck. The guy you're crushing on, isn't that your fiancé from the country? The new money kid. Look at our pictures. Aren't they the same guy? And from what I've heard, he really thinks Khloe is you, and he's been treating her like a princess. This is a total disaster." "Oh my God." Penelope sat bolt upright, clicking on Olivia's photo and staring at it, comparing it with her own. After a long moment, she slowly typed back, "What are you talking about?" By the time I got to Khloe's noodle cart, there was a trickle of blood at the corner of her mouth, though I couldn't tell where else she'd been hit. I'd heard a while back that Khloe's father had left behind a mountain of gambling debt. The loan sharks would sometimes show up at her house, and if she couldn't pay, they'd just move in for a few days, eating her food and sleeping there. Sometimes they'd even show up at her school, publicly humiliating her and demanding payment. Since it was her father's debt, Khloe wasn't legally obligated to pay it back. That's why these thugs had to resort to threats, intimidation, and harassment to squeeze the money out of her. The lead thug, a woman with a nasty scar on her face, sneered when she saw me. "Oh, got a boyfriend now? I knew you were spending your money on other things. How else could you not even come up with $5,000? She reached out to grab Khloe, but before she could, I kicked her hard in the shins. My mom, ever the worrier, had forced me to take taekwondo lessons since I was a kid, just in case of trouble. I might look lean, but my fists are solid muscle. I grabbed her wrist, and the woman yelped in pain, trying to pull free but unable to break my grip. "You little punk. The cops are on their way. Keep shouting if you want." I called them on my way over. Sure enough, a moment later, we heard sirens approaching in the distance. The group of thugs scattered instantly, all except the woman whose wrist I still held. By the time we left the police station, it was the middle of the night. Over the years, Khloe had already paid off a significant portion of her dad's debt. To put an end to the harassment for good, I secretly paid off the remaining $35,000, principal and interest included. "Does it still hurt?" I asked, pointing to her cheek. A bright red handprint was already swelling on her pale skin. Khloe shook her head. She stopped walking and looked up at the night sky. I followed her gaze, and then I heard her speak softly. "Tell me," she said, holding out her open palm. The moonlight is so bright and beautiful. Why would it ever shine on someone like me? I tilted my head back to look at the moon, then spread my arms wide in mock surprise. Wow, you're right. I hadn't even noticed. It's so big and round tonight. It looks like a giant cookie. Khloe, are you hungry? I'm starving. Khloe, who had been watching me the whole time, let out a small laugh and nodded. We didn't get cookies that night. In the end, we went back and had her deluxe stir-fried noodles instead. The next morning, I got to class earlier than usual. When no one was looking, I reached into my bag to get the breakfast my chaperone had packed for me. Just as I was about to slip it into Khloe's desk, a pair of elegant hands darted out and snatched it away. I stared at my empty hand, then looked up, ready to yell, and found myself looking at a stunningly beautiful face. It's you, I said, confused. Why did you grab my breakfast? Penelope's smile faltered for a second, then her eyes filled with a look of hurt. Ethan, have you forgotten me? I'm Penelope. I stared at her in surprise. Wait, your name is Penelope too? She tapped me on the head. That time when we were 6, and you made a chicken peck me on the butt? Have you really forgotten? It was only then that I realized something was terribly wrong. You're Penelope? I glanced over at Khloe's desk. Then she's Khloe Davis? Penelope said, looking at me as if I were an idiot. Don't tell me you thought she was me. I pulled out the piece of paper with her address on it. But I went to this address. No one was there. I'd only given it a half-hearted search back then, and when someone pointed out Penelope to me, I just let it go. Besides, I wasn't here to force a marriage anyway. Getting into a good college was my top priority. Khloe was smart enough to get into Harvard or MIT. If I stuck with her, I could at least get into a decent Ivy League school. So I figured, fiancé or not, if I couldn't find the real one, it didn't matter. And more importantly, Khloe was beautiful, too. A different kind of beautiful from the girl standing in front of me. Penelope's beauty was one of polished luxury, every feature radiating privilege and confidence. Khloe's beauty, on the other hand, had a resilient strength to it. She might look fragile, but she never broke. Whoever gave you that address got it wrong. But, she leaned in, feigning anger. Ethan, look at me. I'm your fiancé. I'm the Penelope you have an arranged marriage with. I have no idea who would have misled you into thinking Khloe was me. I scratched my head. Sorry about that. More students started filing into the classroom, and many of them noticed Penelope. Isn't that Penelope Ashworth? I thought she transferred to the advanced placement class. What's she doing back here? Penelope straightened up and handed the breakfast back to me. It's fine. I'll pick you up after school. My grandmother has been dying to meet you. That night, she wired $75,000 to Olivia, telling her to stay abroad for as long as possible. I looked up and saw Khloe standing there. I hadn't even noticed her come in. She was holding her backpack strap, her shoulders slightly slumped, standing perfectly still. Her eyes were fixed on my face, and the usual light in them seemed to have shattered into a million pieces. Khloe had heard everything. For the entire class period, Khloe didn't say a word. She had retreated back into the silent, withdrawn girl I'd met on my first day. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I picked up my pen and poked her arm. She turned to look at me almost instantly, and for a split second, I saw a flicker of light return to her eyes. It was just like my dog at home. The moment I say his name, his eyes light up and he looks right at me. So, here's what happened, I whispered. Someone was messing with me and deliberately told me you were Penelope, and they made up this whole story, which is why I got it all wrong. But even if I had the name wrong, the time we've spent together has been real, right? You can't just ditch me. I didn't know why I was so frantic, but all I could think to do was threaten her. You promised you'd tutor me. You can't just give up now. If I don't get into a good college, I'll never forgive you. Khloe suddenly ducked her head and started searching for something in her desk. After a moment, she pulled out a thick notebook. These are all the classic problem types from the last few years of math finals. I've written out multiple solutions for each. The ones in red are the simpler methods, good enough for most similar problems. The blue and green ones are more complex, but they'll help you understand the core logic behind the entire category of problems. If you can master those, you can solve anything they throw at you. Khloe clutched the notebook, her knuckles turning white. She had spent the entire class period turning it over in her mind, and she had to admit to herself that she had nothing to offer, nothing that could compete. The only thing she had to give was this, something that felt cheap and worthless. She paused, then added, "And if you don't understand it, that's okay. I'll help you." She looked at me, and when she smiled, her eyes seemed to sparkle. "Ethan, I'll help you. Whatever you want to achieve, I'll help you get there." I took the notebook from her. It was thick. Khloe's handwriting was perfect, and every handwritten page was neat and clean. "Thank you, Khloe." The fact that she was still talking to me meant she was still willing to be my friend. I pressed the notebook to my cheek and leaned closer, smiling at her. I promise I'll study it. So we're still friends, and I can still walk with you after school, right? Khloe hesitated for a moment before giving a small nod. During the break, I called my mom and told her the Ashworths weren't bankrupt, that I'd made a mistake. My mom sounded surprised. Oh, well, that's good news. Now you can stop worrying about them all the time and maybe call your mother once in a while. She paused, then added with a hint of regret. Although, that does make the whole breaking the engagement conversation a bit more awkward. When the last class of the day ended, I instinctively tapped Khloe on the shoulder. Ready to go? Khloe didn't move. I followed her gaze and saw Penelope standing at the classroom doorway. When she saw me looking, Penelope tilted her head and smiled, her tone casual. Let's go. The driver's waiting. Only then did I remember that Mrs. Ashworth had called me during lunch, and I'd promised Penelope I'd go with her to visit. Khloe kept her head down, fiddling with the things on her desk. It's okay, she said softly. I can get home on my own. I looked at Khloe and, for some reason, was reminded of the day I found my stray dog, Buddy. It was pouring rain, and he was just a few months old, left shivering and soaked on the side of the road. I pushed down the strange feeling in my chest and left with Penelope. The Ashworth estate was huge. The old mansion was imposing and elegant, nothing like my home. The Ashworth matriarch was thrilled to see me and asked a ton of questions. Penelope's father, however, clearly didn't like me. He scowled the entire time I was there. On the way back, Penelope explained, my dad's just like that. He'll warm up to you once he gets to know you. I didn't care. It didn't matter to me whether he liked me or not. I wasn't marrying him. Penelope suddenly waved a hand in front of my face. By the way, that Khloe girl. You should stay away from her. Hearing Khloe's name snapped me back to attention. What? She suddenly clammed up, just looking like she wanted to say more. Nothing. Just remember what I said. I was annoyed, but I didn't say anything. From that day on, everyone at school was saying that Penelope was pursuing me. She was very open and public about it, so everyone knew we were connected. She's just pursuing her own fiancé. It's romantic, what do you know? I thought Penelope looked down on her country fiancé. I guess I was wrong. She seems to really like him. I heard that when Ethan first got here, he thought Khloe was Penelope and was super nice to her. I knew it. How could a poor girl like Khloe get so lucky? Having a hot guy like Ethan follow her around like a puppy. Turns out it was all a case of mistaken identity. I never heard any of this directly, because they always made sure to say it just loud enough for Khloe to hear. After gym class, I couldn't find Khloe anywhere. I looked all over for her, and finally, I overheard two girls talking as I passed them. It's awful. Jessica and her friends locked Khloe in the equipment room. They said they were going to teach her a lesson. Oh my God. Should we tell a teacher? Let's just forget it. If Jessica finds out we snitched, she'll make our lives hell. It's not worth getting involved for Khloe. I broke into a run towards the equipment room, but halfway there, Penelope ran out and grabbed my arm. I thought you were bringing me a water bottle. The game's over, and I never saw you. I impatiently pulled my arm away. Sorry, I've got to go. Are you going to find Khloe again? Ethan, you need to remember, you only talked to her by mistake. If it weren't for me, she wouldn't even be on your radar. Penelope, I said, looking at her calmly. Maybe at first, I only talked to her because I thought she was you. But the person I've been spending time with since then is Khloe, not Penelope. I know the difference. Penelope frowned. What are you trying to say? I didn't have time to listen. I took off and ran like the wind towards the equipment room. The equipment room was in the basement under the bleachers, and it was pitch black inside once the door was closed. Luckily, when I got there, Jessica and her friends were still hanging around outside. I walked right up to her, grabbed her by the collar, and said, "Give me the key, or I'll beat you senseless." Jessica's family had some pull in town, and she acted like she owned the place because her dad was friends with the principal. Her face flushed red. "Let go of me. Ethan, you've got a lot of nerve. You wouldn't dare hit me." I wasn't scared of her. I slapped her right across the face. "Do I need to make an appointment to hit you? Now give me the key." Even that loan shark couldn't handle me. These pampered high schoolers were no match. "Khloe," I yelled as I shoved the door open. In the sliver of light from the doorway, I saw her immediately, collapsed on the floor and drenched in sweat. Her eyes, barely open under her messy bangs, slowly focused on me. It was then that I learned this wasn't the first time something like this had happened to Khloe. A group of girls at school, led by Jessica, constantly found excuses to bully her. People underestimate how vicious teenage girls can be when they're jealous. Khloe was smart and beautiful, and despite her family's poverty, a lot of guys liked her. Khloe turned down every guy who asked her out, but that didn't stop them from having crushes on her. To Jessica and her friends, It was infuriating. What right did someone from the bottom like Khloe have to get that kind of attention? So they bullied her, even starting vicious rumors to ruin her reputation. One day, Khloe saved a little kid who ran into the street. The kid's father, grateful and seeing she was about to be late, gave her a ride to school in his Bentley. Jessica and her friends saw the whole thing. By the end of the day, a rumor was flying around the entire school that Khloe was a sugar baby for some rich old man. I can't believe Khloe is that kind of person. She seems so quiet and innocent, but she's sleeping with some rich guy for money. I heard she even got plastic surgery to keep him happy. That makes sense. I was wondering what a rich guy would see in her. Turns out she's just easy. The rumor got so big that eventually, the man in the Bentley had to come to the school himself, with traffic cam footage, to explain what had happened and clear Khloe's name. But the school's punishment for Jessica and the other girls who started the rumor was a slap on the wrist, and they didn't even make a public announcement about it. This time, however, I dragged Khloe straight to the principal's office. "Ethan," Khloe said, pulling on my arm. "Please, don't cause trouble for my sake." I ignored her and kept pulling her forward. Khloe could feel how furious I was, and she let me pull her along without another word of protest. Unfortunately for Jessica, the person I'd hired to keep an eye on things had recorded our entire confrontation. She couldn't deny what she'd said. I made a huge scene and threatened to post the video on social media if they didn't take it seriously. This couldn't be swept under the rug. When I walked out of the principal's office with Khloe, I felt fantastic. I glanced back at Khloe and saw that she was staring at me, her eyes filled with an admiration that was almost overflowing. I immediately puffed out my chest and cleared my throat. "Don't forget, you have to write my detention essay for me." The video had also recorded me slapping her, so while my intentions were good, I couldn't escape a minor punishment. Khloe smiled. Okay, Penelope had watched the entire scene unfold that day, but she never said a word about it. In the days that followed, she acted as if nothing had happened. I felt awkward about it and was looking for an opportunity to clear the air with her. Right then, a friend of mine who was studying abroad sent me a video. "Hey Ethan, this girl in the video is talking about a Penelope. Is that your fiancée?" I opened it. It was a video from a noisy bar overseas, so the person speaking was yelling. "You want to hear something hilarious? That Penelope girl made me find Khloe to pretend to be her, all to ditch her fiancé from the country. And then, get this, in some crazy twist of fate, she ends up falling in love at first sight with the very same fiancé she'd never even met. And now, to chase after him, she's basically exiled me over here. But hey, anything for a friend's happiness, right? I'll drink to that." So that's what had happened. Suddenly, everything made sense. Strangely, my first reaction to the video wasn't anger, but relief. I was just glad that, through a bizarre twist of fate, the first person I'd really met was Khloe. I turned off my phone and poked Khloe's arm with my pen. I hated sitting in the sun, so Khloe had taken the window seat. The afternoon light streamed in, creating a golden halo around her silhouette. "What is it?" she asked, putting down her pen and turning to look at me, giving even this small interruption her full attention. I studied her face. She'd gained a little weight. It suited her. I'd done a good job taking care of her. "My mom's in Boston." I said it quietly and was rewarded with the flustered expression I expected to see on Khloe's face. My mom was here to call off the engagement. Our families didn't have much contact, but this engagement had been hanging over us for years, and plenty of people knew about it. It was only right to make a clean, official break. And since our parents mutually disliked each other, the process was surprisingly quick. By the time Penelope found out, the engagement was already a thing of the past. I heard she raced home that day, just in time to see my mom walking out of the Ashworth mansion. For the first time in her life, the proud, confident Penelope begged someone. "Ma'am," she said to my mother, "please, give me another chance." I don't know what my mom said back, but when I saw her later, she was pacing with her hands behind her back, fuming. The nerve of those people, looking down on my son. "I wouldn't let you marry their daughter if they paid me. She's so skinny, a strong breeze would knock her over." My mom was in a phase where she disapproved of every girl my age, and that's when she noticed Khloe standing next to me. Her eyes narrowed, and she pointed like a judge. "You are not to stand next to him." It took years before Khloe dared to get anywhere near my mom again. Later, Penelope came to see me. "You like Khloe? There isn't a single thing about her that's better than me. Does she have any idea how much one of your watches costs? What could you possibly get out of being with a poor girl like her? You and I are from the same world, Ethan. Khloe isn't." She wasn't asking it as a question. She was stating it as a calm, simple fact. I laughed a little. "I thought you were going to apologize." After I said that, Penelope pressed her lips together. "It was a misunderstanding. I didn't mean for it to happen. I understood then." She was probably one of those people who are physically incapable of admitting they're wrong. Or maybe she just didn't think it was necessary. My forgiveness didn't matter to her. I looked at her seriously. I have money. A lot of it. If I want a watch, I can buy it myself. I don't need to find someone who can afford to buy me one and build my life around them. And if one day I'm broke, I'll buy a cheap watch. The point is, no matter what happens, I know I'll be fine. I like Khloe, and I would love any gift she gave me, no matter what it was. Penelope, I'm not angry that you lied to me. Honestly, because it never really mattered to me. To me, it was just a harmless prank. But for you, playing games with people's lives isn't a one-time thing. A personality like that will follow you for the rest of your life. And for that, I truly feel sorry for you. After that, Penelope never bothered me again. I'd see her around school sometimes, always with a different guy. Later, I heard she went to college overseas after graduation. Khloe got into Harvard that year. And thanks to her tutoring, I managed to get into MIT, right across the river. My mom was so thrilled she threw a party big enough to feed a small army. It was only then that I learned Khloe had been planning to drop out of school just days before I transferred. After college, Khloe went on to grad school. Life had improved a lot for her family over those years. Her brother was in middle school now. The only sad part was that her father passed away during her sophomore year. As for me, I knew I wasn't the academic type, so after graduation, I started taking over the family business from my mom. While Khloe was in grad school, I expanded our operations to the West Coast. Back then, I'd finish my work for the day and drive over to her campus to pick her up. The moment I pulled up, I'd see her waiting for me, looking fresh and clean in simple clothes, a backpack slung over her shoulder. She'd grown a little taller since high school, and her features had matured beautifully, but she still had the unmistakable look of a sweet, innocent college student. And then there was me, in my tailored suits, with perfectly styled hair, a fancy watch, and a luxury car. She was actually a few months older than me, but back then, I loved to tilt her chin up and tease her into calling me sir. Khloe's eyes would soften, and she'd lean against my chest, her cheeks flushed, whispering, "Sir, sir, I'm a simple guy. I'm rich and good-looking, so I live life exactly how I want to. And when I take care of my woman, I spoil her rotten." I had it all figured out. If Khloe wanted to be a doctor, I'd build her a hospital. If she wanted to be an astronomer, I'd buy her a star. In the end, Khloe became a world-renowned physicist. So, I spent a fortune funding a research institute for her. The adult Khloe was even more captivating. The slender girl from my youth had shed her last traces of immaturity. Her features were even more refined, her figure elegant, and she carried herself with a cool, intellectual grace. When she held my hand, her grip was firm and steady, making me feel completely safe, even as my heart hammered in my chest. My favorite version of her was when she was in her lab coat. When she'd take off her glasses, the hint of exhaustion in her cool, intelligent eyes was incredibly alluring. No one would ever guess that the cool, reserved Professor Davis was, in private, so passionate, it was almost overwhelming. Sometimes, when I couldn't keep up, I'd have to make an excuse to get away. "Ethan," she'd say. Khloe rarely cried during her toughest years, but now that she was with me, she'd often get teary-eyed in my arms. "I bought a new toy. Want to try it?" But I have no self-control. The moment she took off those glasses, I was a goner. After we got married, my business continued to grow, and I successfully took the company I inherited from my mom public. That same year, Khloe won the Nobel Prize in Physics. When the interview video was released, the world was stunned by how young and beautiful the winner was. Those who knew her couldn't understand how, while constantly traveling between her institute and remote research sites, she still had the energy to produce such award-winning work. Only I knew the answer. They couldn't understand because they had never met the Khloe I knew in high school. At the end of the interview, a reporter asked her, "Now that you've won this incredible award, is there anyone you'd like to thank most of all?" The large screen showed Khloe's calm, gentle face as she began to speak, her voice soft but firm. "My husband," she said, her gaze seeming to pierce through the screen and find me. "He was my hero when I was a girl. He was like a ray of light, brilliant and enduring. And from that moment on, he chased away all the shadows in my life."